Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Finance Committee for the Brownsville Public Utilities Board. Today is August 26th. It is 1:30. We're in the administration building. We do have a quorum of our committee. Do we have any public comments today?
No public comments.
No public comments, so we'll go ahead and proceed to the agenda. We have 4 items. First item, presentation discussion of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board Financial Performance Report for the period ending July 31st, 2026.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Justin Locke. I'm the Chief Financial Officer. I'll be presenting to you the July financial report. Generally speaking, it's kind of all good news. For the most part, we'll probably talk about a couple points of interest, and then we'll take any questions at the end there or along the way, whichever. Going straight to the dashboard, we have the flow of funds. Again, FPEC is kind of impacting the overall look of our financial statements because it's so much lower than what we expected. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, but almost $4 million has been generated to the bottom line to replenish the improvement fund. We've debt service coverage moved up from last month. Now it's at 1.99, almost 2 times coverage, which is a positive, and we'll talk about some of the reasons why here in a moment. So that we're showing, again, financial perspective only, we're showing that in the green. And then FPEC has generated over recovery of 21.32. Some of you may notice that's gone up just slightly. If you recall, we did move up the FPEC charge last month, ever so slightly, and also we're seeing a soft market. So the combination of those two things actually increased the amount. Also, we had a discussion last month in the board session a little bit about unwinding of the rate structure that was beginning to be put in place related to the wholesale sales. That has not occurred. We'll probably be having a discussion here shortly about that to talk a little bit more detail. The overall impact for this year currently is relatively mild or small. But we're going to get into more detail on that soon. And then cash transfer to the city, that is up. But again, if you look at the cash, rather the usage for the city, it's significantly lower because of the cost of fuel. And so the offset is that the cash transfer goes up. The number, and again, we can look at it in just a second, is about $600,000 up on cash year or above expected. And then personnel and non-personnel. This was a point of interest last time by during our board session with Dr. Zamora. She brought up, well, is it really a good thing that we're down on vacancies? I kind of went back and thought about that. Obviously, there's a great argument like, wow, you have 65 vacancies currently. That's kind of not so good thing because how do you get what you need to get done? And so that side of it. But when I think about it from a financial performance perspective, us being down $1.5 million on personnel salary, well, that's a positive impact to the bottom line. And so I think that's why, after I thought about it, why we have that in the green. I think it's completely legitimate to think about this in terms of, are we getting the projects done? Are we getting the things done we need to get done and maintaining the utility, when we're 65 positions down? So we went to HR. We've added this as an element. I have more, pardon me, I have a little bit more detail. They actually provided us all the way back to 2020. So the varying vacancies rate, just to kind of give you a feel, dating back to 2020, was 7.4, so a little bit less than this. It is high as in 21 was the highest we've seen. It's about 10.6% in vacancies. And then it's sort of moved its way all the way down. In 2025, we were about 7.4. And now in 2026, we're right here at 9.8. And that is through July. And so I think it's always good to at least note where that's going and maybe the variability of it. It does go up and down, and again, we have cycles there. I'll pause there just in case anybody has any questions. Nope. Okay?
Though I think the HR component is important, this is a financial performance, summary. So I think maybe we'll have to remind Daisy that this is specifically a snapshot on financials and not HR.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's weird. I love the comment because that's absolutely true. I always try to merge the two things, right? The operations with the financial, because I think they both speak to what's happening in the utility, and they're both critically important. Again, I think, I wasn't here, but when this was designed, I'm certain it was designed around the financial aspect, which is kind of what you're pointing out. BPUB's average bill is lower. Again, even though we increased the FPEC, again, it was ever so slightly. So, and I'll show you that. In fact, let me just scroll to that if I can real quick. Right there, BPUB's at 99.40, so still under the 100. All kind of the average of the MOUs, 124, and then the IOUs, of course, at 143. Interestingly enough, when I moved down, I went looking, and the lowest I could get was actually closer to about 150, just to buy the buy. So it was, yeah, I couldn't find the 143. So let's just put it that way. So I think it's interesting and I'm sure those are out there. I think it's always interesting when you actually do something, what you really get. So just a side comment there. And then right below that is CIP. Again, we kind of toss this one back and forth. I feel like we're doing a good job like we did last year. Again, committed 44 million. Year-to-date actuals 44 million. The committed is 28. Again, feel like we're going to be in that 54 million range. Could be slightly higher. Started looking at some of the things from last year. There is a chance it could be over 45 million because a lot of charges do come in at the end of the year. But again, tracking pretty decently compared to what we were looking at doing. I know David has a report later to discuss this. I went out of my way to ask my group, give me just a few of the big projects. And I always like looking at that anyway, but AMI stands out, electric and the water side, almost $5 million apiece in those two. And then there's a large substation, Ocelot, that's also had about $5 million worth of charges this year. So those are kind of the bigger projects. There's a few other ones. Probably the only other one that's interesting to me, or it stood out to me because it's on the water and wastewater side, is the ARPA downtown project, phase 2 or project 2 they call it. But between the two sides of the utility, it's about $4 million. So those are things I like to track because it tells me, how and where the money's being spent, and then we can also track it from a cash flow perspective. So overall, all the key metrics, honestly, are pretty well into the green. Again, I like where we're at. I think it's all good news, both for us and obviously for the city transfer and the citizens of Brownsville. Switching to some key financial metrics, again, we kind of pointed out 1.99. That's well above our 125. Again, in my mind, kind of our low side should be closer to the 2.0 times coverage because we want to push to try and get that all A across the board from the rating agencies. And then cash on hand, still high at 406, well above the industry standard. Again, we got a lot of reasons for that, and I'm actually dissecting that on and off as we speak over the last 3 or 4 weeks I've been here. But I really like our cash position. Annual debt service, 29 million. I don't know if it's an interesting point to anybody else, but for me, the 263 million actually includes a portion of the current year annual debt service. So the only reason I bring that up is the 263 because we sort of fund it as we go in terms of the year. Not that the payment has gone out the door, but we have the money set aside for the payment. That 263 is actually a lower number, so it's probably closer to maybe 8 to 9 million less than that 263. But again, you'll see the real result when we flip years and we've actually made the cash payment out the door. So I just think it's interesting because we're going to be closer to probably 250 million, which all that translates to is it's allowing us to have more capacity for future borrowings. That's the way I think about it. Again, we kind of talked about the bond ratings. We just, again, pushing for the A across the board. Debt to capitalization ratio still at 38%, and we're right on target with other utilities. All the reserves kind of in line with where they should be. And the next one, we'll talk a little bit about the gap per representation. So this is, again, net position. Talked a little bit about this last time. Net operating income lower overall, but when you get to the bottom line of net position, mainly because, yes, income's down, but capital contributions are up by almost the identical amount. And so you'll see there on line 7, the change in net position is about 27 million, and we, last year, about 27.7. So, again, nothing to be concerned about there. Overall net position, 537 million. Again, I looked it up one more time. Our assets continue to rise overall, and again, we got about 45 million in assets at SRWA, and we haven't quite reached that 1 billion, but I'll keep you posted as we go along. Again, this excludes, so SRWA. And then we have the flow of funds. So overall, I like to start with the bottom, which is 18, debt service coverage. Then go to 17. We're at an improvement fund replenishment of about $4 million. That includes almost $7 million of internal transfers that are coming out of the 10.7 million that's available on line 15. So those are sort of the bottom line numbers. Again, if you want to go up the board, you can look at things like adjusted gross revenues, but they're being impacted compared to budget by the fuel charge. So again, fuel charge is way down. You can see that there, $30 million down from the budgeted amount. We have seen a soft market, and again, it's just the way it's going to be. It's lower, right, overall, and we are charging under. Let me do one more slide right there. I just wanted to make sure you saw that we talked about this, but the FPEC rate went up ever so slightly. You can almost barely negligible kind of a difference. But overall, 3.62 down. We started the year at 25. We're at 21.32. So with that, I'm going to stop and see if there's any questions. That's kind of my report for this time.
Sure. Questions? Oh, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Item number 2, presentation discussion of the advanced metering infrastructure growth meters.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. First thing I'd like to say about the AMI project is that we're a little bit ahead of schedule and we're under budget. So
That's it. Stop. You're going to ruin it.
the rest is actually an opportunity that has come up. As an overview, so far we've spent about 25. The project is budgeted at 29.8 million, I believe, and we've spent 29.5 almost. So we have about 4.2 remaining. On the installation side, we're at about 85% installed on the electric and 82% on the water. Overall, the project is about 85% complete. Let's see. Okay. Sorry. I'm going to go one forward. So right now, long story short is I'm jumping one slide ahead, and then I'll come back because we kind of got them out of order. So there's an opportunity. If everything's going well right now, then why am I here? There's an opportunity. We have an opportunity to basically fill a gap. Badger is the water meter provider, and then Landis & Gyr is the electric meter provider. In both cases, we're about 4,000 meters short of 100% installation once the project is completely complete. Well, why is that? Well, we had to order meters at a certain point in time. You have to do a contract, and I need X number of meters. There was a little bit of a gap in between when we placed our order and when operations started receiving the new meters. So currently, we're replacing the old meters, or the previously existing meters, we're replacing the electric and water. Well, when operations, electric and water, ordered their meters to match ours, it took a little bit of time because, as you all are aware, there are issues with getting deliveries on time and everything else. So there was a gap in there. And more or less, it's about 4,000 meters on both sides. Since we have funding available, we think we're going to finish the project under budget. I approached the operations people and said, look, if you can get me some numbers together, maybe I can help you. I said, I might have the budget to purchase those meters so that we can complete 100%. And secondly, your staffing, they're swamped with their workload right now. And so I can take those off the table for you. I said, there are two caveats there. One, the budget dollars, and two, the time. Time is important because I have Allegiant here right now. They're installing the electric and water meters. So if I can do this additional 4,000 while they're here, we can just amend their contract. I can purchase the meters, pay for both, and I take them off your hands. And in that way, it's kind of a win-win-win. We win because it's 100. We'll get 100% meters installed. There's not a shortfall. There's not people who are expecting meters and didn't get them. And secondly, it takes that workload off the operations guys. So basically, long story short, I'm pulling that workload into the project if the board chooses to do that. Obviously, one of the choices is no, just complete the project and be done with it. And we'll do that as time passes. Might take a year or so, but so there is that option. I just wanted to present this opportunity to you all because I didn't want to finish the project, declare victory, and then, well, we could have done that, that type of a thing. So long story short, the original contract was for 54,186 meters. We will install all those meters. So we will have met all of our objectives. This includes retrofit and meter exchanges. As I stated, on the water operations side, they did adopt our standards, but there's that gap. And mainly it's due to system growth. Brownsville's been growing faster than what all of us anticipated. And plus the supply line issues that we've had. There's also an added benefit. If we pull, I have better pricing because I'm ordering 55,000 water and 55,000 electric meters, so I have better pricing through the project than essentially operations has through purchasing. So if the other thing is if we order them through my project and install them, that's the key. It has to be within that timeline, within the contract. Then we will actually save about, we're thinking about $87,000 just on the purchase price of the meters. So that's just a side benefit. And this is a breakdown of, okay, what exactly are we talking about? You can see they're 3/4 inch meters, 1 inch meters, 1.5, 2, 3 inch and 4 inch meters. And this is just the pricing catalog going across. Now, on that column where it says total price inventory, that is the Badger portion of this project. So we would need $908,000 to buy those 3,928 meters. I do not need additional money. I can pull that $900,000 from our contingency fund. We have about $1.3 million in contingency today. I don't see anything else coming. Knock on wood. There's nothing on the horizon that we have spotted. So at this and we waited this long for this reason. I didn't want to do this 50% through the project and then something rear its ugly head. So right now we're looking pretty good. I can pay for this out of contingency. The next item, if we choose to do this, the next item that's on the agenda is to actually allow me to write a new PO to Badger for the 908, and I would pull the money from contingency to pay for that. So that's why you see the next agenda item there. Now, on the last column, or the second to the last column, no, I'm sorry, the last column, you'll see the 496,000. That's the cost that's what it would cost us to have Allegiant install those water meters. There's not an item for that because I don't need you to do anything there. On the Allegiant contract, under the current PO, we will finish at least 600,000 under. There was a line item, a rental of a vacuum truck for the duration of the project that we were able to avoid. So I can use that money. I will just reallocate the funds within that PO, within that contract. Nothing has to change. But obviously, for that amount of money, I wanted to bring it to you. I don't want to make a change without you all being aware. So that's why you'll see a PO for Badger, but not for Allegiant, because we will work with the existing PO. We will just switch it. We'll just do an amendment. And I'm sorry, I missed something. As I mentioned, we did talk to electric and water. Electric, we're not able to do this because of the timeline. The meters that we want to purchase on the electric side going forward are kind of like AMI 2.0. They have a little more fidelity and granularity in their measurements, so you can detect blinks and kind of try to figure out what's happening. And I know that's been an issue with the board, so it's a good thing that they're going to order those meters, but we have to, it's a special programming, and the lead time on that is like 32 weeks. That's half a year, and we're going to be done, God willing, our deadline is March 2027, and I think hopefully we'll get done before that. So it doesn't fit our timeline. So that's why you don't see the electric. The water potentially fits our timeline. If we decide to move forward, we're going to push it and see if we can get it done. So that's the logic behind the two. In summation, if option A would be, which is what we're essentially asking approval for, is to order the meters from Badger for $905,000, and then we would do a transfer within the project with the existing funds. Well, in both cases, existing funds, but Allegiant, we're working within their normal PO, and that would cost us about $496,000. As I said, our contingency is about $1.3 million right now. Option B, which we would try to do, but I cannot promise you we could do that, is obviously we purchase the meters from Badger, and then we have PUB personnel do the meter installs. And that would not be operations, that would be my guys, the meter readers, meter servicemen, but we need to work out to see what training issues there are and if they can actually physically do that. So we're going to go for if it's approved, we'll go for the cheapest, or I should say the most economic option, but basically, I'm putting forward option A as a safety net. And I've updated the budget since this. So this says that we're sitting at 1.1 in contingency, which covers the Badger. We're actually sitting at 1.3. And that is, any questions on that part?
So did we not get the vacuum truck because it hasn't rained?
No, we didn't get it because we didn't need it. In a lot of cases, what we did was we had our personnel. We asked Allegiant, look, if you can't do it, hey, we kind of got a vacuum truck that we might be able to get our hands on. So before you go rent this thing, let us know. They return it. They RTU it. They return it to us. And if we're able to alleviate the thing, and sometimes we just sent personnel out there. For instance, if a box was set improperly, in some cases, I walked around my neighborhood in some cases over here, they just got pulled out. They RTU'd them, returned to utility, and then we worked them. So we were able to avoid that completely. Some other costs, just to refresh the board's memory, okay, how do we have so much money in contingency? Well, we built that partially through things like this. One of the things that we did was when we went through the Allegiant contract, we signed the base contract with this is the way we do things. We were able to bring them in and say, hey, look, instead of renting a warehouse, can we use our old warehouse that sits in back of here? And if you use that warehouse, it's behind a fence, so I have security. You don't need to have security. And you can park your trucks there, so you don't need parking for your trucks. And we have a forklift that you can make use of. So things like that we've been able to do and build up our war chest.
So this is kind of two general questions and one comment. First of all, should we buy more than just a small number of meters and warehouse those since we're getting a better price on them?
It doesn't quite work that way because, okay, it took me a while to understand this too. And when we purchase meters, they go into inventory. When we pull them, it kind of average prices. When we pull them, then they get charged to the project, okay? Now, since we're doing it so quickly, basically, we get it at that price. Badger is willing to do this as an amendment to the project, but once this contract is over, we can ask, but I don't know that they would honor that.
Well, I mean, should we amend the contract now instead of for 300?
Because we're guessing at that point.
800.
In other
And-
words, it's two different contracts, and they're allowing us to kind of
Okay.
sneak these 4,000 in because the project is still active. But that's not our normal pricing. It's just that we bought so many that they're giving us that pricing. Does that make sense?
I mean, I think
We-
so.
we
I
can
think
ask.
It's worth
All you can say
just
is no.
saying, hey, yeah, exactly. Worst they can do. So that was one question. Actually, that answers the second question too. Or actually, second question is just for admin and everybody else here. If you can think of any problem that might come up with accounting or auditing later on down the year or two from now, just because we do this, think about it. Doesn't mean something will come up, but just so we make sure that there's no way there's an undotted I next year and we start to look at this confused. And my comment is I did have my electric meter changed out by a BPUB person. I guess that wasn't very common. And did a great job, let me look over his shoulder, was very nice as I asked, annoying questions. So, so far it's been great.
Yeah, just on the, I mean, it sounds like a good idea, so I don't really see an issue with it, especially because you don't see any need for additional spend, right? I just didn't understand the comment on the electrical side. So you said that we're upgrading to like a different version to get better resolution on granularity or something like that. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the electrical side?
One of the issues that we've had is blinks. So there is a meter that has a little more granularity that will help detect that, and so that they can pinpoint where is my problem, so that then they can go and address that issue.
Yeah.
At first, we thought, well, why don't we order a handful and you can put them out using the scouts here and there. In speaking with electrical operations, they said, great idea, but that's not going to work. We actually, I'm sorry. They've identified certain subdivisions in town where they have issues with blinks and that type of thing. And they said, look, we need about 2,000 meters in order to cover that. And we said, well, I might have the money. Let's get a cost. The issue then became
The
those
timing,
those
yeah.
meters will not even be available until March of 2027, which
Okay.
I'm supposed to be done by then. Then, in order to provision those meters, to program them to PUB standards, it's different for every utility. Even though it's a base meter, then you do the programming of all the little features that you want in that meter. That takes 32 weeks. So it'll be 32 weeks once that meter's available. 32 weeks is half a year. We're supposed to be done by then. I did not want to extend the project.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
So for this, you're just looking for feedback?
Yes, and we will be taking this to the board for approval, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, sounds like a good opportunity.
I agree. I think it's a good opportunity. I just want to make sure, Eddie, that, no surprises on the budget. Something happens and, oh, here we go, $500,000 we forgot about. Then everyone's like, oh, so you absolutely make
That's-
double sure that, you know, I'm glad that we have that contingency, but just make double
Yeah, it's
sure.
going to chew it all up. So yeah, trust me, I'm a little nervous. I'm like, why did I do this? But
Yeah. Okay, sounds good.
we're there.
All righty. Any other questions? None? Okay, we'll move on to item number 3. Presentation discussion of the Badge Meter Inc. change order for additional meters. Didn't we just kind of talk about that?
We've just discussed that. This will be the actual item to approve the expenditure, a new PO to Badger for the 900,000.
Okay. Okay. Any comments?
No, just add it.
You
I
can
think
add it to board
maybe the
agenda.
question, maybe the question's added in consent or not. I think you can add it in consent. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Eddie. Item number 4, presentation discussion of year-to-date CIP delivery performance as of June 30th, 2026.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is David Ramirez. I'm the Acting Director for the Water, Wastewater Operations and Engineering, also overseeing the asset management and CIP delivery. And I'll be going over the year-to-date CIP delivery performance as of June 30, 2026. In the presentation, I'll be going over the following 5 topics, which include the planned versus actual expenditures cash flow, analysis of the variance by project cost category, CIP expenditures by utility, an overview of causes for project delays, and CIP delivery performance over the last years. This slide shows the monthly cash flow for planned company-wide CIP expenditures for this fiscal year in the solid blue line. The solid red line shows the monthly actual expenditures cash flow through the month of June, and the dashed red line indicates an estimated projection from the actuals trend. Looking at this comparison, there was a negative variance of 20 million through the month of June and a projected end of fiscal year total CIP expenditure of $58 million, which would represent 65% of the approved fiscal year budget of 89 million. This pie chart allocates the variance by 3 main project categories. Projects with the largest budget of over $1 million, projects between $500,000 and $1 million, and projects under $500,000. There are 20 projects in the large project category, and it contributes to a large portion of the negative variance mainly due to the dollar size for this kind of projects. The opposite happens with the smaller projects under $500,000, where individual negative variances per project don't have a big impact in the company-wide CIP budget, but because this category has a lot of projects, 157, it adds up to a considerable portion of the pie. We can also see that the mid-size and large dollar projects are progressing at about 75% as planned, whereas the smaller projects are at about 50% as planned, possibly indicating a larger focus on project management resources on the first 2 categories. This visualization is the same information from the pie chart from a different angle. We conclude here similarly that the small project category tends to have a small impact on the CIP budget per individual project, but because there are many projects in this category, the impact compounds to be similar in impact to the large project size category. This visualization also shows the project progress for mid-size and large projects tends to be better managed, pointing to a focused allocation of resources and a possible need for additional project management resources to complement the efforts allocated to small size projects. This section focuses on the projected budget execution at a fiscal year end. Based on the spending forecast developed using the average monthly expenditure rate by utility, the forecast provides an indication of the proportion of the approved budget that is expected to be executed by the end of the fiscal year, and highlights the different performance trends across the utility portfolios. Based on the current projections, both electric and water utilities are expected to execute more than 75% of their approved fiscal budgets. A key contributor to this performance is the AMI project, which represents one of the largest capital investments within the company portfolio and is also among the most advanced projects in terms of spending execution. In contrast, the utilities forecasted to complete the lowest percentage of their approved budgets are wastewater and general utility services. Within the wastewater utility, a significant portion of the accumulated cost variance can be attributed to 5 major projects: Old Highway 77, the North Regional Force Main, South Wastewater Treatment Headworks rehabilitation, and the rehabilitation of several lift stations, lift stations 9, 10, 11, and 43, as well as a Colonia project, Central Estates Praxedis sewer improvements. These projects collectively account for a substantial share of the utilities' delay spending. While each project represents unique circumstances, the primary drivers behind these delays have been external entities constraints, contractor-related performance issues, and internal organizational bottlenecks that have impacted project execution of spending. Within the general utility services, the most significant delays are concentrated in facility maintenance initiatives, in particular, the administration building the HVAC project replacement, which has been one of the largest contributors to the utility spending variance. To better understand the drivers behind project execution delays, a company-wide root cause analysis was conducted to identify the factors contributing most significantly to the variance between planned and actual spending. The objective of this assessment was to move beyond the financial impact itself and gain greater visibility into the underlying issues affecting capital project delivery across the organization. The resulting categories were then ranked from highest to lowest impact, providing a clear view of the factor most significantly affecting CIP for performance. This prioritization enables management to focus attention on the areas with the greatest potential to improve project delivery outcomes. This chart summarizes the root causes of project execution delays results. The bars represent the total negative expenditure variance attributed to each category. The line shows the cumulative percentage contribution to the overall portfolio variance, and the marker displayed on each bar represents the individual impact percentage associated with each specific cost. The analysis reveals that 4 categories account for more than 50% of the total spending variance observed across the CIP program. And those are contract execution delays, organizational bottlenecks, supplier delays, and contractor issues. Of these 4 leading causes, 2 are largely within PUB's sphere of influence and control, and would therefore provide the greatest opportunity for corrective action. And those are contract execution delays and organizational bottlenecks. The remaining categories, supplier delays and contractor issues, are primarily driven by external factors and are therefore less controllable from an organizational perspective. Overall, this analysis demonstrates that while a portion of the portfolio variance is driven by external conditions, a significant share of the originates from internal processes and organizational challenges. As a result, improving contract execution efficiency, reducing organizational bottlenecks, and strengthening coordination across departments represents the most impactful opportunities for increasing CIP delivery performance. This slide right here illustrates the evolution of the CIP budget completion from fiscal year 2020 through the projected results of this current fiscal year. The blue line represents the approved annual capital budget, while the gray line shows the total expenditure recognized during each fiscal year. For 2026, expenditure values are based on the spending forecast based on the year-to-date results. The black bars represent the corresponding budget completion percentage, providing a clear measure of how much of the approved CIP was ultimately executed each year. The chart highlights a positive trend in capital program delivery over the last several years, with a notable improvement in budget completion through fiscal year 2025 and a strong projected result for this year.
Quick question, David. The project delay causes that you showed are just for this year, or do they span all of these years that you show here?
They're for this year, but they're in line with what we've reported in past fiscal years. We tend to have the same issues with bottlenecks and contract execution matters.
Okay.
So at a first glance, the projected 2026 budget completion percentage appears slightly lower than the level achieved last year. However, this difference should not be interpreted as a reduction in project execution performance or overall spending. Rather, it is primarily a consequence of the significantly larger capital program that was approved in fiscal year 2026. Meaning last year our approved budget was 76 million versus 89 million this year. And with that, I'll open it for questions.
Well, I know we've identified contract execution before as a bit of a problem. I think even last meeting, we were slightly shocked that it would take, I think, 3 to 6 months for the gravel contract.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know with SRWA, we have a couple contracts that are waiting to execute, including the manganese study that I think we approved a few months ago that doesn't seem to have been started yet. So I think one question, we have is just, is there anything that we can do to help with contracts? And I know, it's not that you guys aren't working a bajillion hours a week, but is there something that we could do to simplify the process or, fill in the blank?
So we are looking into various different things, and I realize that the delays in contract has been different factors for different staff transitions. We went from one contract manager to two contract manager, and then we lost both of them. We also had transitions and competing priorities. So we are addressing, I've been talking to David on some of the things and doing hiring for project management services for some of these smaller projects. It takes the same amount of effort to manage a small project that it does a large project, because it's the same type of paperwork, the same type of bond verification, the same type of insurance verification, make sure that all of the insurances and bonds are in place in addition to all of the requirements that are being met. So to address the answer to the question is, yes, it might be an additional, short expenditure that we're doing, but we're going to unstuck some of these projects that are doing that. And also we're in the process of realigning the organization to make it a lot more efficient. The contract execution, although it says contract execution, is not just a legal issue. It happens to be with the paperwork and vendor submittal after the bid is awarded and the tracking down of the information to ensure it's provided. One of the things that we're doing now is the form of the contract is being added in the beginning versus negotiated afterwards. So then that way, if there's any exceptions to the contract, we can talk about that. And I'm going to turn it over to legal so he can talk about some of the changes that have been implemented as process improvements. Or I don't know if you want to.
Absolutely. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, is your light green so that everybody else can? Okay.
The process of improvement is ongoing and continuous. We're looking at not just the contract execution efficiencies that should be in best practices implemented throughout the procurement process. Right? There's a life cycle that's being implemented. So, but it is taking time. We continue to call on outside legal services to supplement, but a lot of these are not the types of things that should be going outside. They should be inside. So we have, in the last, is it officially 4 months, we have fully staffed 2 new contracts personnel. We've brought on in the last 4 months an associate general counsel who's helping with and overseeing directly those staff. So we're implementing and getting more efficient because that's the lifeblood. Contracts, in a way, are our lifeblood for the utility. It's been recognized as an issue since I started, right? It's a question of where are we focused and how we measure those results. And I think in part you'll see it's a balance of cost and effort, and it's getting better on the capital improvement side, and I foresee it getting better. And I'd be happy to report specifically on that issue at a future Finance Committee meeting
Yeah, let's
if you'd
add
like.
more work to your plate. Yeah, so, I this will be the one time I mention large language models, but I know El Paso's Housing Authority just implemented a large language model to help their people go through the process of, aggregating all their paperwork, putting it in the right place so that they can qualify for housing. I don't know if there is a similar product, but it sounds like something like that might be useful, just helping the vendors aggregate all their information so that they can get us whatever they need in the right format as quick as possible.
Right. And purchasing has recently implemented a software package formerly known as Savra. I forget what it's called now because there are a lot of changes. And the contract section where Legal Services is looking at various contract lifecycle solutions, some of which incorporate various AI components to it. But the idea is to make it it's a very manual process, and historically that's how it's been. So we're not just looking at how early the contract gets out in an approved form, and then when it's somebody's approved, they already know what the terms are. But it's also bringing it in to through all the approvals that happen, because it's being reviewed by contract areas. The contract owner is the person who defined the scope, and it needs to. We need to ensure that it's getting the job done, but it's also being paid with appropriate milestones or benchmarks that are in there. And then there's the legal terms, and oftentimes we're seeing is that vendors are coming back with their oftentimes AI-driven comments to our contracts. So, meet AI with AI perhaps in the future.
Yeah, thanks for all that. Just keep us posted. I think that's always an open question about not just the contract execution, but also the organizational bottleneck. Anything that we can do to support that as a board. We're open. We're all open to ideas and open to do our part and contribute to that. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I just do want to add, we do have contract management services, but it was more like a records management detention. So once this life cycle of that contract, that's what it would be, a depository. It has other features in there to make it more automated instead of such a manual process. By manual process, it's wet signatures versus an electronic. So we've been trying, and that's what Legal and Paul just mentioned, we're trying to automate that service. Instead of just adding a module to the existing software, is there a better, more inclusive module that take you from beginning to end than just putting a patchwork that just solves the problem and not the full life cycle problem? So it's a getting to the root cause of the issue to address it, and not just the management and approval process, on there. So those bottlenecks that are talking about is the manual routing that occurs, and by the time those signatures, are where are they in the process and not sitting in somebody's inbox because of the inbox gets tacked in with a bunch of other paperwork and not just the contracts.
Marilyn, does the software have any kind of measurement in terms of turnaround?
The current Cobblestone, I am not as familiar with what it currently has or how antiquated, but it's a fairly old system. I think it was already in place by the time I left the first time around in 2014. So
Yeah.
I don't know how old that is.
Right. The current does not at this time. It has a lot of modules that have just never been. Apparently, when it was initially procured, it had additional functionality that got dropped off along the way, sometime in our distant past. And we're looking at those costs of using either upgrading the Cobblestone system or going to someone else comparing costs and efficiencies. And we also see that Savra, the procurement package facilitating the package that purchasing has for electronic submission of proposals, it has components that also might be expanded down the contract cycle, but that functionality may not have been fully explored when it was procured. So in other words, let's find a solution for the complete issue that is the life cycle of a contract, then
Right.
rather than sort of put a Band-Aid on it and just.
I mean, if this is one of the top 3 reasons why, projects are getting delayed, if it is, right, then I would think you can have it fully staffed, and you can have some automation in the process is fine, but you're really not going to know whether you're improving or not unless you can kind of measure it. I mean, if it's a big issue, there should be, okay, for this type of project, and that's just to help you manage it, right? The turnaround time should be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and if there's an outlier exception, then, that's okay. You just have to understand, well, okay, we ran into a big complication here, some compliance issue or something, but I do think that unless you're measuring it, putting resources behind it, I'm not so sure how you're going to improve it,
Well, if I may,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, the process for, and David is very well aware of our move towards e-builder or Trimble, in tracking the capital improvement projects in particular. So we can talk about how that can already be implemented as that program is going online, how it might be adapted to track that type of data.
Okay.
Right, the e-builder software that is currently being implemented across the CAP program will be able to track the different phases of the project, including separated by steps in the process, which include the execution of contracts. So we'll be able to have that metric as well.
That's just important. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, just the one is the contract execution, and the other one is the whole project. So that's what you're alluding to, is and as you said, if this has been common through previous years, then you almost have an opportunity, right, to improve the whole process, either through your software or just designing the process, already knowing, the types of issues that you're going to face. But yeah, just keep us posted in the future, see if there's anything else we can do.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. I think that's it for the regular agenda. Do we need to go into closed session?
We have one item in closed session to discuss the fuel and purchase energy, and so we can recess to close and take
Okay.
it upstairs.
So let me go ahead and read this then, because at this time, the items on the agenda designated for closed meeting will be considered. If there is an approved motion to go into the closed meeting, the listeners will be placed on hold until the board returns to the open meeting. Item number 1, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation of information upon pricing and purchase power generation and fuel and their impact upon the fuel, the purchase energy, and the marketing charge, section 551.086. So is there a motion to go into closed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
The time is 2:23.
Okay, it is 2:48, and we're going to reconvene the open meeting. Item number 1, discussion and possible recommendation on closed item meetings. There was none. 2, discussion and/or request for future agenda items. Anything? Is there a motion to adjourn then?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We're adjourned.